So, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Let's start our study today. Let me just share my book with you all. Okay, can you all see the book?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Right. We just... Okay. Right. So today we are starting a new chapter, chapter 27, Contradictions and Deceptions. So it's a very important chapter because Kardec is going to talk to us about the fact that, we have spirits from all different levels, just like humans. And just like humans, some know more than others. Some tell us that, how much they know, but some pretend to know more than they really do. So when dealing with spirits and their message, what they have to tell us, we have to take that into consideration. So let's see what, this chapter tells us about these, starting with contradictions. 297. The opponents of Spiritism do not hesitate to point out that its adherents do not agree amongst themselves, that not all even share the same beliefs. In other words, they contradict one another. If the teaching is given by spirits, they ask, why aren't they identical? Only a serious and in-depth study of the science can expose these arguments for what they really are. We see that very often, certain contradictions, and then certain messages that, give us an impression that the spirit is saying something, and somewhere else, or perhaps, the same spirit in another occasion, tells us something that gives us the impression that it's something different. Or we seem to read something in one book which, we in which we have some kind of confidence. And then later we read something different and we get confused. So Kardec is giving us some light in that. And I think it is very important. Very important because since we are constantly receiving communication from the spirit world, and basically what we know about the spirit world, we know through the spirits, including, of course, the work of Kardec, which was brought to us by the spirits. So it's important to, understand exactly why these contradictions, they appear. And this is what Kardec is going to do now at the beginning of this chapter. So we will begin by stating that these contradictions, which certain individuals make such a big noise about, are usually more apparent than real, and that they refer more to the surface than to the depth of the issue. And that is why they are of no importance. These contradictions proceed from two sources, humans and the spirits. It's interesting to bear in mind that spirits are us on the other side, without the physical body. This is the only difference. We tend to believe, and this I think is due to religious traditions, different religious traditions and so on, that when we go to the spirit world, we know everything. For those who accept that we survive, they believe that we know everything. Someone who was next to me yesterday and knew little, because he went to the spirit world, he died. Now I think that he can even protect me like a saint, or, with a special gift. Now he knows everything because he no longer lives here in the world where the physical senses are the ones dictating, our life. And this is a great mistake. If I'm here with you today, tomorrow be in the spiritual world, why would I know much more tomorrow than I know today if it's me, if it's the same me? So it's not because we go to the spiritual world that we become enlightened just by the fact of shedding behind our physical body. And this is a very important aspect, because when talking to spirits through mediumship, how much can we trust what they are telling us? And why do they tell us certain things and they don't tell us some other things? And what's the reason behind that? So it's very, very important to be fully aware of this. And Kardec puts here the sources for these apparent contradictions. They come from, on the one hand, humans, and on the other hand, from spirits. And these contradictions also, sometimes they are pointed out by people who know Spiritism, know very little about Spiritism, but they are very keen just to point out contradictions without understanding in depth what is behind that. We see that a lot, especially from people from other religions, where they have difficulty to think along our lines or along the Spiritist lines, because they are just blocked in their religion. They don't accept any other idea. And usually when we have that, some call prejudice, previous judgment before knowing in depth what we are talking about. So they come with arguments that are very shallow, very, very base, without any content in depth. So Kardec now talks about these two sources of contradictions. First one, the contradiction of human origin, have been sufficiently explained in the chapter Theories, number 36, in this book. One should understand that in the beginning, while the observations were yet incomplete, different opinions arose about the causes and consequences of spirit phenomena, and that 3/4 of these opinions have fallen before a more serious and in-depth study. When we are faced with a new phenomenon, when we start to look at it and try to understand, we draw the initial first conclusions, which are incomplete because we don't know the full extent of that. And some people just, take that as the final word about that phenomenon. And they point out contradictions, and they point out inconsistencies in what we are presenting as an explanation for that, and what we can see, or what a group of people believe with something that another group believes is the same phenomenon. How come they have different explanation for that? And also, some people like just jumping to the first conclusion that comes into their head, and they take that for granted, as the truth about it. They don't want to know about any other explanations, or they don't want to take time to go in depth and find the real explanation, the real extent of that phenomenon. And initially, apparently, that's what happened within Spiritism. So many situations. Let's start, for instance, with the turning tables. And, people seeing that. And some of them seeing just that as an amusement. And some other people, including Kardec, trying to find, an explanation behind that, the laws that govern that. But because they were in the initial phase of the study, of course, whatever conclusions they draw from that, they were partial. They were not the final conclusions. Hi, Denise.
I just like to point out, this happens every single religion, like people, every single religion has a little bit kind of like an arm coming out of the main core belief of the religion. It's just because it's people. People have different opinion, and that's what comes pride as well. They want to create that, oh, I'm right, seen that way, and try to differentiate themselves to get that high position. So it's just like human nature.
Yes. And usually due to either ignorance or even tensions, or pride, or, they want to, create their own sects. And yes, yeah, we see that a lot. And we also see that, different people interpret the same thing in different ways. The problem is we stick to what we think and full stop. Especially nowadays, we see that. We see people when they comment on some news. Sometimes I like to read the comments just to see. It's so polarized. You either criticize in all possible ways, or you accept blindly what is there. You don't have people reasoning and saying, well, yeah, this makes sense, but it's not exactly along those lines. It's slightly different, I think. So, and then some other people building on top of that. No, you don't see that. You don't see people trying to build a consensus. You just see this fight. People polarized. They stick to their opinion, and full stop. And also we see that in religion, and for different reasons. But in this case, because it was at the beginning, no one had an explanation for everything that was going on. It was natural that some people would see in a slightly different way compared to other people. Hi, Liz.
Hi, everyone. The question is, like, who would you wish to learn from? So many people, just spout out all their opinions, but they never do any study. They never broaden their knowledge. And they're quite adept at, giving their opinions, but they're very limited opinions. And they never actually realize that how limited their opinions are. They're quick to say their opinions, but they won't take on board, anything external to what is in their brain. Very, very limiting. And yet these are normally the people that always think they're right.
Yeah. You see, Liz, I can come with my opinion to you with a question mark to hear what you have to say. This is one position. The other position is I stick to my opinion. That is the unquestionable truth. Whatever you say, I'm there to contradict you, full stop, So that this is, the two different positions, One who is there to present his conclusions, knowing that, he doesn't know much or he has some doubts, to hear what you have to say and perhaps, change his opinion. If you have good arguments, strong arguments. But few people do that nowadays. And concerning religion, blind faith. I believe my religion is the one who's going to save me. I'm not open to, any other any other reasoning or anything. No, it's there. People stick to that and full stop. They don't even stop to think if that makes sense or not. This is the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you said, very few people know things in depth,
Yeah.
And when you find someone who has studied something in depth and is very keen to talk to you, to hear what you have to say, it's wonderful. You engage in a wonderful discussion, an exchange of ideas and argumentations and conclusions. But very, very rarely we, find occasions to do that nowadays. With
those exchanges, both people have a chance to learn something new.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's being open-minded and open to new ideas is really, really important, because nothing stays the same. You can't have progress when everything is just staying the same.
Yeah. Okay. With few exceptions, and apart from certain individuals who have not easily broken from ideas they have either nourished or engendered, we can now state that there has been a unification of the vast majority of spiritists, at least as to the general principles, except perhaps for a few insignificant details. So you see that, it started with people having different opinions, but amongst spiritists, things converge to in agreement, general agreement, and as Kardec puts here, except for a few insignificant details. 299. To understand the cause and worth of the contradictions of spirit origin, we must identify with the nature of the invisible world by having studied all its various aspects. At first glance, it may seem strange that spirits do not all think alike, but this will come as no surprise to anyone who knows about the infinite number of degrees that they must traverse before they reach the top of the scale. So when we read the Spirit's book and see how many degrees, and also when we read the Gospel according to Spiritism, and we see the moral standard of each one, of each category of spirits, we see how much, longer the way is for us. So how would we expect to standardize, to have all spirits in the spirit world knowing exactly the same thing, getting to a standard level? That's why I said at the beginning that, when we go to the spiritual world, return to the spiritual world, when we shed our physical body behind, it doesn't mean that we gain wisdom, we become pure spirits, our moral changes because we are in the spiritual world. No. I think that has to do with some religious traditions where, if I die and go to heaven, it means I'm, compatible to heaven. I became a pure spirit, or someone who can inhabit in heaven, or, go to the other extreme. So for some people, spirits in the spiritual world, they are either very good or either very evil. So for us, we take sometimes through these traditions, we take some of that when believing that the spirits know everything because they have died and they are in the spiritual world now. And what Kardec is showing us here is that no, there are so many degrees. When we get there, when we get to the spiritual world, first, the spiritual world is different from the physical one. Our physical world is a limitation, a very pale representation of what exists in the spiritual world. There are so many things that now we can't even imagine that we have in the spiritual world. But certain things are not accessible to everyone at this moment because they haven't reached that level, moral, intellectual. So we see that things are always in accordance to our level, and our knowledge is the same. It's not because now I can talk to, I'm in the spiritual world. I say, wow, in principle, I could talk to Jesus directly and learn from him. But my level of development is not compatible to that exchange. It's like coming from a dark cave, going into broad daylight, with the sun shining bright, we'll certainly get blind. There's no doubt. After spending a long time in a dark cave without hardly any light, go into the light midday, we'll get blind. So things are done in a gradual way. So as we evolve, our knowledge will increase, our moral standard will improve, our perception will be different of life, of everything. And so when spirits come to talk to us and to give us information about their reality and what they know about certain things, we have to take that into consideration. To expect a single view of matters, we would have to suppose them to be all at the same level. To think that they all should see things correctly would be to believe that all had reached perfection, which has neither happened nor could happen when we remind ourselves that they are nothing more than humanity minus the corporeal envelope. I think I like that very much. Humanity minus the corporeal envelope. That's the difference between being in the physical world and in the spiritual world. We know, we've studied a lot to know that our progress happens very slowly. It won't happen because we left behind, I'm sorry, we left behind our physical body, our garment. If today we are dressing something and tomorrow we are, dressing something different, it doesn't mean that we are not the same person. And considering, being here or in the spiritual world is the same thing. And also mediumship is not for a selected group of spirits. Mediumship is for all spirits of all levels. So when using mediumship to exchange information, from with the spirits, it means that we are subject to personal opinions, to limitations in terms of knowledge according to the spirit who is talking to us, but also according to the medium and the group who is receiving those teachings. Since we are still imperfect, what we know is partial. We don't have a full picture of things. We have a perception which is compatible to the level that we are, to the experiences we went through. When we become pure spirits, we've experienced everything. We now are very close to, the real truth about things, because we've reached that level. But before that, as Kardec says here, spirits, basically, spirits are humanity minus the physical body. So the same diversity we have here in moral levels, in knowledge, we have in the spirit world. Since the spirits of all degrees can manifest, their communications bear the stamp of their ignorance or knowledge, their moral inferiority or superiority. It is precisely for distinguishing between the true and the false, the good and the evil, that our instructions up to this point have been provided. Some people may ask, why? We have a group of well-intentioned people. We want to know about the reality of the spirit world because that will help us and others to evolve, to guide our life, or to live our life according to a morally more elevated spiritual standard. Why are we subject to deception, to communication of spirits who are not that evolved? Why? Why is that? Why wouldn't enlightened spirits just come and tell us what we need to know and full stop?
Well, we have to learn to think. We have to learn to study, to think, and make our assumptions, and that's how you learn. Just being told does not help anyone.
This is the thing. We have to develop ourselves. We have to experience, and through our experience, learn to tell what is good and what is not. What will help us evolve, spiritually speaking, what will, keep us behind. And no one can tell us things. And it's not part of us just because we were told certain things until we use that in our practice, in our experience. Because one thing is to read all the spiritualist books and say, oh, now I know them, by heart. You can ask me any question. I know all the questions in the Spirit's book by heart. You give me a number, and then I'll tell the question, the answer. But if that's not part of me, if that doesn't help me in my personal experience every day with everyone, it doesn't mean it's become part of me. It's in my head, but not in my spirits, in my perception of things. So one thing is to be given the information, and the other thing is to experience life with that information in mind to help us in our decisions, our opinions of things, and so on.
And Simon, it came to my mind, it's like work-wise, they say that just 10% of the learning come through formal learning. All the others coming to like vivency, like have experience. It's the process of the human nature, how they learn. And I think that is all part of the natural law, how we grow and evolve ourselves.
Yeah, because life is practical. It's not theoretical. Otherwise, the spirits will come here and give us lessons, and we would become evolved just by listening to what they have to say. No, this is not the case. The point is, we have to experience in life, and at the important points during the important moments, that information that we have, those teachings that we received, they will help us understand and make the good choices. It's like coming here and teaching you people very sophisticated cardiac surgery procedure. Very sophisticated. If there's no cardiac surgeon here, it's just theory. It's just information. When will that make sense to us? I'll study medicine, I'll become a surgeon, I'll become a cardiac surgeon, I will specialize in that type of surgery, and when I'm doing that surgery, that piece of information will make sense to me. He told that at this point I should do this and should not do that. Okay, so now it makes sense. And then I start to use that. It's the same in our life, We get a lot of information. We see so many books giving us, lessons, bringing us teachings. But what is the purpose of that? Through teaching us, we become enlightened. I would say no, we become more knowledgeable. We become enlightened when we start to apply naturally in our life, and our behavior becomes in accordance to that. So what it has been said that is now part of us. It's the same. Some people believe that because they believe in Jesus, they trust Jesus, that is enough for them to, gain heaven. Believe that, No, I believe in the Bible, I believe in Jesus, that's enough. Does it make sense? Hi, Charles.
Yes, Munir. It's indeed during ages we limited us to believe what we have been told in the traditional religion. This is this heteronomous approach. You have to believe it because it's written, because the Pope or Jesus or whoever said it, and it's cast in stone. You have to believe it, full stop. The times are changing. So this was acceptable for most of the majority of the population, as long as the people did not develop enough the common sense, their intelligence and their discernment. Today, it doesn't work like this anymore. So that's why Kardec changed this procedure, coming to the teaching of this Spiritist body of knowledge, leading us to think about and to understand before we believe. That's this autonomous approach, which is quite different. And he's writing here very clearly that the error is some people who accept too quickly opinions which are against the common sense. And this is exactly what we are observing nowadays with all these fake news, all these complotist theories, all these manipulators and dictators and whatever, who are still fascinating and controlling a very big bunch of the population. So what Spiritist Body of Knowledge is teaching us is exactly, don't accept all what you are said, but think about, make the reflection, compare with some solid basis, like the teachings, moral teachings of Jesus, for instance, or what some spirits have said in the codification, and then make your opinion, and don't believe blindly all what you have been told. Because I would say to nowadays, if we are told 10 things, 7 or 8 are fake. So if we don't have the discernment, if we don't use our common sense and our intelligence to make the difference, we are like a leaf, you know, in fall, a dead leaf which is blown by the wind. So you don't know where you go, whatever. You are just manipulated almost constantly. So it's of vital importance nowadays for us not to believe what we are said blindly, but to use our intelligence and to develop our discernment.
Yeah, it reminded me of something I read a few years back, Charles. One of these gurus of the of informatics, he said, we are now in the age of information, and we have to prepare our kids not just select what they read, but to make sense of what they read. We are exposed nowadays to fake news everywhere. Some of them are totally fake. Some of them are distorted to give the impression that, you know, and this is the conclusion about this, or that is the conclusion. So we are guided to. So the important thing is to be able, as John said, to have our own opinion, to read and see if it makes sense. After all, we have, you know, this capacity of reasoning. Why not to use? Why just to choose? No, I accept this guy. No, I accept that. And full stop, I, you know, believe 100% of what he said, that we have to make sense of things. This is important. And this is what Kardec was, you know, doing, you know, in mid 19th century. Hi, Lola.
Hi. I was just going to say something, but Charles pretty much said everything, and it was complimenting what you were saying before, Munir.
Yep.
In today's world, there is so much information flowing around, and most of us gather that information. What we forget is the exemplification of that information. So if someone is telling you something, is that person really doing that? Is it doing? Are you actually doing what you're preaching? Have you incorporated that in your life? Because only after you have the experience on your everyday life that you are actually performing it in your duties, in the way you act, in the way you speak, that makes sense. And then you can help others to actually walk the same path.
Yeah, indeed. We may together trying to, you know, understand some teachings and perhaps passing that on to other people. But as apprentices, when we put ourselves in the position of imposing on others something that we ourselves cannot do, then yes, it's hypocrisy. And Jesus mentioned that to the Pharisees, you know, because they told people what to do, but they themselves didn't do it. Hi, Liz Wales.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to go back a little bit in what you were talking about, you know, believe in what you read and things like that. I think as we move throughout time, and Christian religion moved throughout time, we lost touch to what things really meant in the Bible. And another thing that people are very detached from the reality of those times is they were all Jewish, and with Jewish culture, with their way of writing, the way of expressing themselves, that's completely different to what we do in the West, to what we have been done. So we can't, first of all, how can you believe something you can't even understand most of the times? And we resort to taking things very literally. So, you know, this is another thing for us to think about. Like you were saying about fake news of today, what does these things really mean to people that are saying whatever? And, you know, what really are they are coming from? We are just holding on to phrases, not putting it into context, not trying to see what really happened. We are just taking things at face value. And that is something that we need to really think and reflect. What is the meaning behind it all? What that word really means? I think that is a very important aspect that we have to reflect upon today.
Yes, Liz. You see, there are some Christian denominations. They believe in what is written in the Bible. And if you say to them, but the Bible was written, ages ago, in a different time, with a limited language, for people who had little knowledge and in a totally different context, why are you going to take it literally? If things nowadays are totally different, now we have, different understanding of things. No, but the Bible is dictated by God, and it is what it is, and full stop. You see? So,
Monet, I don't
yeah.
know if you know that author. He's a Brazilian. I can't remember his surname, but his first name is Severino, and he's been throughout Brazil doing, speeches and about the misunderstandings, the misinterpretations of the words, the mistranslations, especially from Hebrew to other languages, and what these words really meant in Hebrew. So I don't know if you met him, if you know him. I
Who is
will
he?
try
Sorry?
to. He's
Haroldo?
a
Haroldo
spiritist.
Dutra Dias?
No.
No?
He worked with Haroldo, but his name is Severino.
Ah, Severino. Professor Severino.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. He's from
Yes.
my place as well. So
Celestino.
yes, that is
Celestino.
it. Thanks, Charles. He's really well known on it, and he wrote books. I am sorry if there is none of his books in English. I hope it is. But yes, he has a marvelous book about that, about the mistranslations of the Hebrew language in, within the Bible.
Yeah, he studied theology and then he specialized in ancient Hebrew, modern Hebrew, and Severino Celestino. That's his name, isn't it? Yeah, and yes, there are translations, there are alterations, things that were put there, and he said interpolated between two words. They put an extra word that like Holy Spirit or something that wasn't there for when either out of ignorance or because they did that intentionally. But yes, we have to take so many things into consideration. But some people believe that the book was dictated by God, and because it was dictated by God, it shouldn't change. That's the perception of each one. Again, those who have ears to hear, So, Liz?
Yeah, I just wanted to say things in regarding what Charles was saying about information and Liz was saying about, the proper interpretation of the Bible, which few people do know. And the sad thing about all this is generally when it comes to misinterpretation or not doing, the study, it's generally people who are close to us, our loved ones. And then what do we do? I have the problem where, a very close loved one of mine, mainly because I should think she's just got so flummoxed with the information all around her and all the false information. She said, well, I leave it to God. God will look after me. God will protect me. And it's giving up, really. It's kind of a fatalism. And it's really the wrong attitude, because it's not taking any responsibility onto her shoulders. The other thing is, regarding the translation of the Bible, very few people, it's very, very rare for people to know the true translation. And the culmination of my teacher's life of research and study, especially with the help of higher spirits, just like we're reading from this and studying the medium's book, where she got a incredible help to publish her life's work from Paul to Mark. And when you understand that, you can see how little in the Bible that people could possibly ever understand, and how so much of it has been purloined by the kind of Israeli religions to make themselves acceptable. And it's been put into that as, we were there, this happened and everything like that, which is so wrong. And it's all been proven, but very few people can get their hands on these works because they don't know they exist. Right, when you do study truth, it hurts. It really, really does hurt. And it can be quite shocking, because, we all have very, very strong belief systems. And to come out of that system, or that groove, shall we say, and accept other situations, once you find out the truth, takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of energy. So yeah, unfortunately, my loved one is taking, with the church she's got involved in, church in inverted commas, they take the Bible literally. So that's not going to be any help whatsoever, and it's very sad, very sad.
Yeah, but you see, Liz, people learn from, different experiences. And some people, they have to go through this to learn. Everyone is learning, no matter what.
That's exactly,
everyone is learning. The lesson is different.
That's exactly what I was going to say next, because, parents can't normally teach their children to a certain extent because they're too close. And therefore, their children need to experience from life. Life will teach them. And other people will come along, maybe hopefully other spiritists, who they will listen to, who they will be able to understand. Maybe if in your lifetime they manage to put, 2 and 2 together and make 4 and realize, oh, my parents were right after all. And that takes a long time.
Indeed.
But we rely on life and other people to help bring up those children.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Liz. Let me see. Okay, we must remember that there are pseudo-scholar and semi-scholar, proud, presumptuous, and theoretical spirits, just as among humans. Since only pure spirits know everything, for the rest, as for us, there are mysteries that they explain in their own way, according to their own ideas, and about which they can form correct or erroneous opinions. Out of vanity, they want these opinions to prevail, and they love to repeat them in their communications. I brought a picture that I like very much, that I think perhaps can help us understand more than 1,000 words. Can you see this picture?
Yes.
Let's imagine now that we put This here, where the shadow of the triangle is, where there is a square, we put the knees, and here at the bottom we put letter. And then I ask each one of you, what figure do you see? Oh, I see a triangle. No, I see a square. No, it is a circle. And then you three start fighting because you believe that object in the middle is a triangle and the other square. No, it's a circle. If we don't start to change our perspective and try to see what the other is seeing, each one will, stick to their perception, what they see, and full stop. And how can you do that? Well, we have intelligence and we have a heart. And with those two, we, can exercise them and then, get to the final idea of what this object is. It's a very complex object, if we think, the one in the middle. But the projections on the walls and floor are very simple, straightforward. So you see, there's in this example how easy it is for us just to see from a perspective. And if we are not open to discussing, evaluating, reasoning, analyzing, and showing goodwill, we'll never get to the final conclusion. This object is neither of the three. It is, in fact, a complex object. This is our reality nowadays. Someone comes with, a fact. One will understand it one way, someone else will understand it in a different way. And we as spirits, as we evolve, we start to rotate around these objects, go up, go down, and see it from different perspectives. So only those who have experienced all positions around this object will be able to say exactly what it is. And when we get to that point, we become pure spirits, or evolved spirits, or more enlightened spirits, much more than our current level. So I like this picture because it shows us how perspectives or limited perspectives lead us to sometimes even wars.
It's the elephant in the room. And depending on where you're sitting in the room, as to what part of the elephant you see.
Indeed. Indeed, yes. There's a picture of the elephant, yeah. The error lies in the attitude of some of their interpreters who rashly espouse opinions that violate common sense and regard themselves as solely responsible for divulging them. That's what we saw. No, it's a square, full stop. The other two are ignorant. They don't know what they're talking about. Oh, triangle, how come? Oh, circle. Oh, it doesn't make sense. So my opinion is the one, and I start telling people it's a square, and I try to convince people it's a square without opening my mind to the possibility that perhaps my perception, my perspective is very limited. Thus, the contradictions of spirit origin arise from the natural diversity of intelligence, knowledge, ability to judge, and morality of certain spirits who are not yet capable of understanding and comprehending everything. See the Spirit's Book, Introduction, Section 13, and Conclusion, Section 9. So, we see that we have our understanding limited, our knowledge, intelligence limited. The same applies to spirits. And as has been said before, the communication is for spirits of all levels. And they don't come with an ID that tells us, oh, I'm so and so, I know this much, I can talk about this and that, I have, you can trust me 50%, and no, it's up to us to take this opportunity to exercise our capacity of reasoning, of understanding, of making sense of things. As Charles said, we have autonomy. We normally we expect to be told, oh, this is the truth. Don't believe him, don't believe her. This is the truth. Stick to this, to what I'm saying. No. If I can't understand what you were saying, it doesn't, it means nothing to me. And in my own time, I'll get to the truth. But I am the one who is going to walk towards that truth. It's valuable, all the information, the knowledge that we receive, because at the right moment, they will make sense to us. Or they will not make sense to us and say, no, that was, no, that wasn't true, or was just rubbish. And, for so long I believed in that, and now I realize that it doesn't make sense. Hi, Liz.
Oh my God, I just forgot what I was going to say. Oh, it came back, Mani. Thanks for your
Wonderful.
patience, everybody. The thing is, we could start to kind of having an attitude that everybody, which is truth, everybody only talks about what they really know. And what they know, they experience for some reason. They believe that that experience taught them X, Y, and Z. So for us, for something to become real knowledge, we always have to understand it has the informative side, the information we learn, we read and everything. But then there is the experience, what we see in practice, what we see in day-to-day things in our relations with others. And that is the basic cement that is going to transform that information in knowledge for us. So I think what I'm trying to say is what everybody is saying to us, what we are getting and inputting in our minds is just kind of references and what people see, what people interpret. But then we need to also trust our own experience and then always reflect on what it is telling you that reality really is. What is it telling you that, really works? And obviously, the less proud we are, the more close to the truth we are going to get.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And as you said, it is in real life, in our daily chores and relationships that we get to put into practice all the teachings that we receive. And I think Kardec is going to mention about that now, item 300. Thanks, Liz. 300. Some persons might ask what the use of good spirits teaching is if they do not offer us a greater degree of certainty than those of humans. The response is simple. We do not accept the teachings of all humans with the same confidence, and between two doctrines, we prefer the one whose author seems the more enlightened, capable, judicious, and least subject to the passions. We must regard the spirits in the same way. Even though some are not above humanity, there are many who have surpassed it, and they can provide us with information that we would seek for in vain amongst the most educated men and women. We must learn how to distinguish them from the crowd of low-order spirits if we want to become enlightened. And it is this distinction that leads to an in-depth understanding of Spiritism. I think this is very important. It's not to know in advance who is telling the truth and who is not, but to learn to distinguish. This is very important. And that's why sometimes a very harmonious mediumship group with people who do good, they are good people. They have interest in learning, in improving themselves, and sometimes they are deceived by evil spirits, mocking spirits, Why is it allowed to happen? Because they are yet in the process of distinguishing what is good and what is not, what makes sense and what does not make sense. And while there is a trace of vanity, pride, selfishness in us, these communications will actually, how do I say, feed on that. Feed on that. Oh, I was told that, I was, the most important guy on earth some centuries ago. And although I don't trust very much the spirits, I like that. I like to see me as, the guy who was dominating, the whole world. And so there is, a trace of inferiority in that. And my lesson is to be deceived by this. Then, as I move away from these imperfections, I start to, more clearly and easily distinguish truth from falsehoods. And Kardec points out how important it is to understand Spiritism. Even this information has its limits, however. If it has not been given to spirits to know everything, even less has it been given to humans. Therefore, there are subjects about which we would ask spirits in vain, either because they must not inform us about them, or because they themselves do not understand them, and can therefore only give us their own personal opinion. These personal opinions are what proud spirits state as absolute truth. It is especially regarding matters that must remain secret, such as the future and the beginning of things, which such spirits most insist on in order to give the impression that they know the secrets of God. This is also where we can find most contradictions. So see preceding chapter. So we see that everything that is there, oh, I want to know how everything began. There's, this veil, this mist. And oh, I know, I can tell you, but I'll tell only you, because you are the chosen one. Oh, for us, that is fantastic. Yeah. And, it's going to be very difficult for this person, full of pride, to accept that spirit is not telling the truth. Or I'll tell you the future. You will have this privilege. You will know about the future. And, and we open the door to be deceived. Hi, Liz, very quickly, please, because we're running out of time.
Well, basically, an evolved spirit will tell you, you're not allowed to know this at this junction, or knowing this can put you in harm, or knowing this is impossible with the level of your intellect at this time. They will tell you in advance.
Yeah.
Why you can't know something.
Oh, yes, indeed. That's what they normally do. So thank you very much indeed. Rafael is here. I'll hand it over to you, Rafael. Let me just stop recording.